McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We're lucky enough to get Tommy Lawlor, longtime Eagle beat guy and creator of EaglesBlitz.com, to jump on with us for a couple of minutes here today. Tommy, saw a couple of your posts of late. You're kind of like us, got to come up with things to talk about during the offseason when there's no actual on-field activity to get done. What right now do you think is the Eagles have to focus on as soon as they show? First day of camp, what is the most important thing? Probably not on field because they're not going to do a hell of a lot. The Eagles don't always do a hell of a lot. But mindset-wise, what's the first thing that you believe has to be put in place when the 2023 season opens up?
Put last year in the rearview mirror, right? The Super Bowl and that great season, that was all nice, but that's history. You need to focus on what's in front of you. And we know Nick Sirianni always really preaches one game at a time, focus on winning the day, getting one bit better each day. And that mentality is part of what helped them have so much success last year. It's really challenging to do that coming off a Super Bowl. If you go back to 2005, the Eagles had made the Super Bowl in 2004, loaded with star players. And a lot of those players talked about the fact, like the secondary, Lito Shepherd had a terrible season. Well, he couldn't get his mind off the fact he had been so good in 2004. So he lost that edge that helped make him so good, played sloppy. Michael Lewis, the safety, had made the Pro Bowl in 2004. 2005, he was a bad player. All he could do was think about how good he had been the year before. You can't think about the past. You've got to focus on the present and the future. So the challenge will be for Nick Sirianni and the veteran leaders to get those guys to stay focused on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you had mentioned at your latest at EaglesBlitz.com, Tommy, that it feels like the current Eagles team has a better chance of sustaining success than the 2017 team. I kind of agree with you, but interested to hear your thoughts as to why you think they have a better opportunity than that 2017 team.
Well, when Doug Peterson talked about the new norm back in February of 2018 and how he wanted to be playing games in January and February and compete for championships, I kind of bought into that idea. And we had just seen Nick Foles have a sensational playoff. Carson Wentz was on pace to be the NFL MVP, so we thought Wentz was going to continue that. And then we saw guys like Corey Clement play out of his mind in the Super Bowl. You go, oh, wow. Imagine if he could play like that for a whole year. What a weapon he'd be. We had all these things that look great, but in retrospect, they were kind of anomalies. Carson Wentz never played that well again. Nick Foles never played that well again. Corey Clement never played that well again. And so what you saw, that was kind of that playoff run. The team was great all year. That playoff run was really special. And the guys who played like that were not like proven star players who had a background of that. And so getting them to live up to those levels, it just didn't happen. And so with the current team, I think you look at A.J. Brown. He was one of the best receivers in football when the Eagles got him. Devontae Smith was a top 10 pick or top 12 pick, whatever he was. He was, he won the freaking Heisman Trophy in college. Hassan Reddick was a double-digit sack guy the previous 2 seasons. So he came to Philadelphia and did more of the same. So guys don't have to do something special. They just have to play up to their ability. And then it's up to the coaching staff to give them the right structure and to fill holes here and there and that kind of thing. But the talent is there. Whereas the 2017 team felt like a few things went right that just, in retrospect, weren't sustainable.
Tommy, I think one of the more debatable positions on the Philadelphia Eagles, not as to whether it's going to be good enough, because I think it is, but how they're going to be deployed, how they're going to be used, is running back. Last year, coming into the season, you knew Miles Sanders was going to be the lead guy. And Miles had a damn good season. Wasn't as good in the postseason. Maybe an injury contributed to that. But didn't finish the year in postseason the way he had gone all year long. No longer here. They added Rashad Penny. They added DeAndre Swift to Kenny Gainwell coming back from Boston, Scott coming back. How do you think the Eagles are going to determine who gets the ball on any given week with the guys they have in the running back room right now?
I would assume they're going to go with a hot hand type thing. If you look at Penny and Swift, they combined for 8 years of NFL experience. those two players have combined for 3 games of 20 carries or more, right? They are not used to being a workhorse. So having both of them play and get 10 to 12 carries, it really makes sense. And one game you might have a guy who gets 12 carries, the other guy gets 6, and then you mix in Gainwell and possibly Boston Scott. And you're going to kind of go with who's the better fit for the game plan that day. I think Penny is probably the more talented player overall. He averages 5.7 yards a carry for his career. That's nothing to sneeze at. Even though he's been injured, that's still impressive. And his downhill physical running style with the burst he's got, deliver plays. I think Nick Sirianni is going to love that. And I think they'll go with him. Swift is the better receiver and the more complete back. They'll mix him in. And, of course, we saw with last year in the playoffs, they like Kenny Gainwell. They'd love to get him touches, but I don't think they're quite at a point where they think he's ready to be the guy. So they're going to really mix it up and go running back by committee unless somebody just plays phenomenal and is so good that you have to give that guy the ball.
I want to give you my Anthony Harris theory when it comes to Rashad Penny, Tommy, and see what you think of that. I think it was August 30th when the Eagles traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. On August 29th, Anthony Harris was the number 1 safety on this team. On August 30th, he was down to number 5 and off the 53-man roster because he can't help on special teams. He can't fit into that role, and all of a sudden things shifted to him that quickly. It's not going to be the exact same potentially with Rashad Penny because I don't expect the Eagles to go out and trade for a running back or even bring somebody new in. But my point is, if he's not the lead back, or if he's not at least the co-lead back, whatever terminology you want to use, he's not going to make this football team, is he? Because he's not going to help on third downs. He's not going to help in hurry-ups. He's not going to help in special teams like guys like Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott. Then you throw in Trey Sermon, who Nick Sirianni keeps bringing up unprompted, and he could be at least around for a little bit of time. Whereas if you go with Penny, here's the second part of it. If he hits a home run and is tremendous, he's going to cost too much money. The Eagles aren't going to sign him. If he plays poorly, they're not going to want to sign him. So he's a 1-year guy anyway. Is there a possibility? If he has a bad summer, out of here.
If he has a bad summer, I absolutely agree. The Harris comparison is interesting. The one difference there, I'm not 100% sure, but Harris, I think, would have been an undrafted player. And Harris,
he was undrafted, but
and he had one breakout year when he had 6 rate interceptions for Minnesota. Was not an above average starter throughout his career in Minnesota. You look at Penny, he was the number 27 pick in the draft, was a star in college, and has kind of special ability. The big problem with him, he hasn't been healthy. So with Harris, if he wasn't going to be like in a specific role, there wasn't really a need to keep him beyond the fact that he was experienced. With Penny, there's talent there. So the comparison does make some sense in the fact that if Penny isn't going to be a key player for you, then as just a role player, there's not much there. But I will say, if you look at it, a couple of years ago, you had Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard as a 1-2 punch. Jordan Howard wasn't playing on special teams, and they kept him, and he was, again, a veteran who I think was on the final year of his contract, if not a 1-year deal. So I think keeping Penny and Swift is likely, unless one of them struggles. And if they struggle, you're absolutely right. They're going to be on a short leash because that's a replaceable position. And we know Trey Sermon's going to Canton. It's just a question of when he gets on the field, right?
Well, when he gets on the field, the coach will sing his praises. We're pretty sure about that. Well, follow-up running back question, because Johnny and I have debated this plenty during the offseason, and specifically with the one addition Eagles made at running back. See if you're in the same camp we are. DeAndre Swift brings pass-catching ability out of the backfield. He's been one of the best receiving backs in the NFL the last several seasons in Detroit. Do you think that will change the Eagles' way of running their offense? That because they've got another skilled guy at it, and we believe Gainwell's not bad at it, that they will throw the ball to the backs coming out of the backfield more than they did last year by a significant number?
Significant? No, not at all. I don't think they're going to reshape the offense. Obviously, if you go back with Sirianni, Austin Eckler played well for him years ago. He's had success with throwing the ball to running backs. But the way this offense has currently evolved, you have downfield threats, and then you have the run game. And the way it really works right now, you just don't need to feed the ball to the running backs. And I don't know that really would be a strength for Jalen Hurts. I think he's better on intermediate and deep throws than he's going to be throwing balls into the flat. So I would expect them to continue to feature the wide receivers, to get the ball to Dallas Goedert, and to mix in the running backs here and there. Hopefully they'll be a little bit better than they were in the last couple of years, because it is a valuable weapon to be able to get the ball to a running back in space beyond just a handoff. Makes the defense, cover something else. So they need to do it more, because we know Nick Sirianni has that theory: don't ever be last in the NFL on something. And catches by a running back, they obviously need to do a better job, but they don't need to go significantly more.
Yeah, I'm surprised how many people bring that up, Tommy. I get the health part of it. You want to take some of the load off Jalen Hurts. If Phillip Rivers were Nick Sirianni's quarterback, Kenny Gainwell would have caught 65 passes last year. I mean, that's the style of the quarterback. And that's, which I think is a positive for Nick. He understands that, and he sort of morphs around the quarterback. With Jalen Hurts, he's going to get more than dumping it off to the back when he extends plays or runs it himself. So there's no need to dump it off to the back. But I think you're right. Now that they have Swift, and to a lesser degree, Gainwell getting a little bit better, hopefully, now they can manufacture touches for the running back. I always bring up those bubble screens. It'd be nice to have DeAndre Swift catching that instead of saying Quez Watkins, because he can break that first tackle and make something out of it. I think that's where it's important. The Eagles can now, I still want to get the ball in the hands of AJ, Devontae, and Dallas Goedert before I want to, throw a bubble screen. But we know how this team works. And if they have the advantage and they say, numbers say throw it outside, they're going to throw it outside. And if that's DeAndre Swift instead of a receiver, I'll put AJ up to the side because he's so powerful. But he can break that first tackle and turn those ugly bubble screens into something, at least on paper.
Yeah, listen, I've always said that, sometimes there's an over focus on the running game. And if you really talk about what you want is touches by your running backs. So as we all know, back in the Andy Reid era, it wasn't runs, right? Brian Westbrook was carrying 175 times a year when we might want him to carry 250. But they made sure to get him 80, 90 catches. And so when you looked at total touches, it was reasonable. Well, Nick Sirianni is willing to feed the running backs the ball as runners, so they don't have to give them as many touches as a receiver. But you're absolutely right. You want running backs to get the ball in space because they know how to make plays. They can make a guy miss. They can break a tackle. They're used to having to do that. And so get them into space where they only have one or two defenders to make miss. And that's when you have a chance for a big play. So I absolutely agree. And as we talk about Nick Sirianni, it's a real credit to him that his offense has evolved. Think about our good friends down in Dallas with Mike McCarthy. He just fired Kellen Moore because he wants to go back to more of the offense he ran in Green Bay 10 years ago. Well, Nick Sirianni, what does he do? He comes in here and he's coached Phillip Rivers, and he's coached about 27 different quarterbacks with the Colts. And he comes in here and he's Jalen Hurts, who's unlike anybody he's ever coached. He builds he starts the offense one way, and then the middle of the 2021 season changes it. And it's evolved since then. And he's taking advantage of the talent he has, and also what the rules of the NFL are today and what works in the NFL today. He's not caught in the past the way that Mike McCarthy seems to be. So that's a good sign of a coaching. Use your talent and evolve your offense and make sure that you get the most out of your players.
Yeah, Andy Reid used to debunk the fact that he threw the ball too much by saying, well, a short passes to Westbrook are runs as far as I'm concerned. In his mind, they were the same as runs. You're just throwing it slightly rather than handing it off. Andy looked at, because everyone would always scream about the run pass ratio with
John
Coach Reed.
Runyon didn't agree with that. That's for sure.
True, little different expectations for the offensive lineman getting out there blocking in space. All right, here's the key question to the offense for me this upcoming offseason. Brian Johnson, we know he's got a great relationship, long-term relationship with Jalen Hurts, and has been the quarterback coach here since Coach Sirianni showed up. But he's the guy who's going to be calling plays this year. Understand it's Sirianni's offense, and he create the plays all week long, building up to Sunday. But in that split second, got to make the decision, what are we going with here? It's going to be Brian Johnson. Both John and I believe Shane Steichen was outstanding at play calling last year. How much of a risk is it turning it over to someone else? Now, you didn't have a choice because Shane Steichen took the job as head coach of the Colts. Brian Johnson, just a simple transition from Steichen to Brian Johnson, or is Brian Johnson going to be under a microscope when this season's open up in his play calling ability?
Oh, he'll be under a microscope for sure. The Eagles fans, the Eagles media, the NFL in general, because the Eagles' success last year, everybody's going to want to see what this offense does. And if there's any drop off, they're going to say, well, they got Hurts back, they've got AJ back, they've got Devontae back. Who's the guy who's missing? It's the play caller. So he'll be under a lot of pressure. I think you had to promote from within if you felt like the guy was competent. Obviously, Brian Johnson has a great reputation in football right now. He had success at the college level. He did a great job tutoring Jalen Hurts the last couple of years, getting him to play at an elite level. So everything points to him being ready for this job. Until you're the guy making those calls, there's some unknown, right? It's absolutely fair to say that. So we'll see how he does. But Sirianni, based on the way that he was developed as a coach, coaches his coaches, he likes to say. And I think that he's worked to get them ready for these opportunities, and he feels like Brian Johnson is ready for this opportunity. There will be some good moments. There will be some bad moments. There's probably going to be a couple of things he does better than Shane Steichen. There's going to be a few things he's not going to do as well. So it'll be interesting to see. And overall, I think the offense should continue to perform at a high level. But there could be a few moments where you really do find out you missed Steichen.
Yeah, we brought up 2017 and sort of sustaining that success. I mean, one of the things was losing Frank Reich and losing John DeFilippo. And because I don't want to compare Carson Wentz to Jalen Hurts, because I think Jalen's completely different from a mindset. I think he's tougher mentally, to put it nicely. I think he's got a better work ethic, to put it nicely. So I don't want to make that comparison, but I do want to make the comparison from John DeFilippo to Press Taylor for this reason, Tommy. John was kind of the hard ass that kept Carson on task. And then Press Taylor was kind of his friend. And, nobody's denying Press Taylor's a good football coach. Well, some people did for a while, but now that he's recovered in Jacksonville, pretty clear he's on a nice path himself. But he's very close, almost, and the Eagles would say a little bit too close to Carson Wentz from a friend perspective. I always compared it to good cop, bad cop. Like, John was the bad cop and Press was the good cop as the assistant quarterback coach. And then when he became the quarterback coach, can't change that. Now, Shane, for those who don't know, I'm not going to call him a bad cop, but he could be, I always say, can't get out of a conversation with Shane Steichen without about 15 F-bombs. Which is hilarious to begin with. But now you have Brian Johnson, who's known Jalen Hurts since he was basically 4 years old. They're very close. In the case of Taylor, too close. Could too close be a problem to the quarterback? Because sometimes you got to be a bad cop. Did I make sense at at
No,
all.
totally. Yeah. And finding the right fit is always a challenge. There's no question. And you don't need guys to come in and kiss your butt and be nice and walk on eggshells around you. You've got to have tough coaching sometimes. We know Sirianni can be a tough coach. Uh, Brian Johnson, I think, because of his background, having been played at Utah where they don't exactly pamper athletes, right? Uh, he's played, or excuse me, he's coached in college. He had to grind his way up. So I think he's going to have a little bit more experience. I think he's going to have a little bit more of an edge to him than Press Taylor did. And part of the other thing is just age. He's a little bit older. So Press Taylor was so close to Carson age-wise, made things a little awkward, and Brian's a little bit older. Now, the other thing is you have a player in Jalen Hurts who wants to be coached hard, right? And so there's no Brian Johnson doesn't have to hesitate and think, hey, can I say this? Should I say this? If it feels right, just say it, because he knows the hardest coaching Jalen Hurts has ever gotten was from his dad. And obviously he's still super close to his dad. So he knows it's okay. You can let loose, you can be tough. And Jalen Hurts wants that. So I think the relationship's a little different. Carson, you know, Carson's such a complicated subject, man.
I know.
Sigmund Freud would have gone to work at McDonald's if he met Carson Wentz. Trying to get inside that mind of his is a challenge. But Carson wanted the appearance of being coached hard, but what he really wanted was people to tell him, "Hey, listen, you're the guy, you're the dude. We love you, you're awesome." And he struggled, when people were hard on him. And so that was tough for him to take. And so with Jalen, you have a guy who's going to embrace criticism because he knows criticism is how you get better. You can't correct what's gone right. You correct what's gone wrong. You need somebody to point out, hey, Jalen, your completion percentage inside the 10-yard line isn't good enough. We need to work on that. He doesn't want to hear, oh, hey, listen, you're great at quarterback sneaks. He wants to hear what's wrong because that's what you can fix. That's how you get better. So I think that'll play a part. But listen, that dynamic of coaches and emotions and personality. One of the things with the Dallas Cowboys that back in the 90s, when they were so good, Troy Aikman loved being coached hard. And when Jimmy Johnson left, that he never got coached hard again. He was a star quarterback. So anybody they brought in treated him like the star quarterback, and the team got softer because of that. He liked it when he played for Jimmy because Jimmy was hard on him, and the rest of the players said, well, if he's going to be that hard on this freaking star quarterback, he's going to be hard on me. The next guys who came in were more like sycophants. And so that's Troy. We'll take care of Troy. We'll watch Troy. Well, then the team became soft. And as we know, they've not had a lot of playoff success since then. So you need the right player and the right people around him, but you got to have tough coaching if you want the right results.
All right, Tommy, here's my next question, and I'll entree into it by giving you some stats. The Eagles' fifth leading tackler last year was who? If I tell you the top four were TJ Edwards, Kaiser White, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and Marcus Epps, their two safeties and their two linebackers, those are their top four tacklers. Who's number 5?
Javon Hargrave.
Correct. Yet somehow Javon Hargrave this year, as per PFF, a terrible run defender. Great at getting up the field. Great at getting sacks. Got 11 of them. He's their 5th leading tackler. So you're not only taking out a guy who got 11 sacks, but your 5th leading tackler. And we just kind of brush over the fact that Javon Hargrave is not here anymore. I get it. They used a very high draft pick on a guy that both John and I like a lot and think is an uber talent who was underdrafted because of off-field incidents. Are we underrating how much the Eagles are going to miss Javon Hargrave?
That's a tricky question. Let's talk about the sacks to start with. He had, 11 and a half sacks last year?
Yeah.
So he had the previous 2 years, I think he combined for like 10 sacks. So that 11 sacks was an anomaly for him. He was not a guy that had played anywhere close to that level in the past. So could he repeat that? Will he repeat that in San Francisco? That's a huge, huge thing. As a run defender, part of that is making plays to get in the ball. Part of that is with the Eagles, and what they do is eating up gaps and being able to control 2 gaps. Watch the Super Bowl. Javon Hargrave really struggled against the run. Chiefs ran for 158 yards in the Super Bowl. Hargrave's run defense was not good. So there's no question that they can improve on the run defense. Now, he did make plays. He did shoot gaps. He is a good player. There's no question about it. He just wasn't perfect for what the Eagles wanted.
He made almost 20 more tackles than Fletcher Cox, and Cox gets more snaps than Javon last year. They're probably pretty damn close, but I would bet that Fletcher played more downs than Javon. So if he wasn't good against the job, I'm not sure how Fletcher didn't get those openings that you're describing for Javon if there was double teams on a guy like Davis in the middle of the line.
Yeah, well, tackles can be deceiving. You can make a tackle coming from the backside because the guy on the front side is reading the run and controlling both gaps. The running back has to stall where he's going. The guy from the backside chases it down. It all gets complicated. There's no question about it. Javon Hargrave was a fantastic player for the Eagles last year. Again, the weakness, if you said, oh, there's a weakness, it was his run defense. So the Eagles are going to have a chance to be better against the run, but will they be as productive as pass rushers? And they're probably not going to get 11 sacks out of a defensive tackle this season. So,
Right.
There's a little bit of a drop off there in one area, but you might be better in the other area. And with the amount of pass rushers they have, it actually might benefit them to be better have a better run defender at that spot, and then let the edge rushers have an extra half second to get to the quarterback. So
Yeah.
we'll see
I'd rather have 55 sacks and better run defense than 70 sacks. I don't know how the fans might think about that because they want sack. But I mean, this team's got to get better against the run.
The fans want the 85 Bears where you have, 70 sacks and a number one run defense, right?
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the 85 Bears, a little bit of an anomaly there. So
yeah, and Javon's a really good player, but
Absolutely.
You also have to add in $21 million a year now. Is he a $21 million player? I don't know. I think the Eagles made the right decision. As you mentioned, Tommy, despite having the worst coordinator in the history of mankind, a lot of guys had career seasons. Javon's one of them.
Right.
And we call them career seasons for a reason. Sometimes you keep ascending, as Jalen Hurts has proven on the offensive side, at least to this point. But typically, career year means career year. And that means the next year, it's not going to look like your football card. Who said that last week? Baseball card, Jody. But, typically you are what you are on the back of the football card. Javon's not going to get 11, 11, 11. He's not Aaron Donald.
Right.
So I think the Eagles made the right decision. But then again, I'm looking at Jalen Carter, and it might not be right away, but Jalen Carter's more talented. Jalen Carter's got a chance to be a much better player. And I'm using that word purposefully, a much better player than Javon Hargrave. And Javon Hargrave's a really good player. That's how much upside I think Jalen Carter has.
Oh, totally agree. He's a special dude. I mean, you saw it last year, 2021. Georgia had one of the best defenses in the history of college football, loaded with all kinds of stars, and their best player was a sophomore defensive tackle. It was Jalen Carter. Everybody would just go, you're sitting there, you're watching all the prospects they have, and the one dude that was the best was 88. He was just so young, you didn't even learn his name. You just said, well, wait till next year, we'll see what 88 does.
Yeah.
And then last year, you've had a fantastic year. And you could see his combination of agility, explosiveness, strength, skill, athleticism. I mean, he's got it all. He has the potential to be a special player if he can stay focused, if he can stay driven. And I think, he's on the right team with the teammates he's got here, the coaching staff, the fact he's coming into a winning culture. He's used to winning in college. I think some guys hit the NFL, and if they go to a bad team and they've come from a good program, you get a couple of losses, and they just don't know how to handle that, and they kind of lose themselves. And he's coming to the Eagles where the expectation is championship football. He came from Georgia where the expectation is championship football. So everything is in place for him to be his best, but NFL history is full of guys that didn't, had good circumstances, didn't pan out. So we'll see what happens. But, if he turns out to be the player the Eagles think, he's going to be special.
Tommy, need you to look into your crystal ball for me a little bit here, make a prediction on playing time at a specific position for the Eagles. I think we all believe Nakobe Dean is going to be their number one linebacker. He's got the green dot. He's going to be on the field much more than anybody else. But when they've got two linebackers on the field, didn't the NFL used to play with three linebackers? Now they only,
too many people think they still do, Jody.
Yeah.
Too many people. Oh, 4-3, 3-4.
Yeah, right.
Drives me nuts.
So when the Eagles actually have two linebackers on the field, the guy after Nakobe Dean to get the most snaps will be either Nicholas Morrow, someone else as a linebacker who is right now on the Eagles roster, or someone on another team that Howie Roseman will acquire some way, shape, or form, released, traded for, acquired. Who will be the number two linebacker on the Philadelphia Eagles this year, A, B, or C?
I think it's going to be somebody that's already on the roster. Trading for somebody, listen, it's possible. Howie's always looking, but the NFL just isn't filled with great linebackers right now. And I don't know that there's anybody out there that they want to go make a move to bring in and then have to give up resources to get him and figure out how he fits in and this and that. I think they're going to try to stick with the guys they've got. They'd love to see Nick Morrow become a functional starter for them, or Christian Ellis, is the guy that they probably would love because he's younger and even cheaper than Morrow to have him pan out. But I think they're going to give those guys every chance in the world to make it. If they do struggle, then obviously Howie's willing to go make a move early in the preseason, in the middle of the season. But my guess is they're going to stick with the guys they have.
At Lawlor NFL, make sure you follow Tommy on Twitter. Since last one from me, Tommy, since Jody went down the Nakobe route, I'll finish there. I saw you got you retweeted a great picture of or put it at eaglesblitz.com of Bill Berge playing middle linebacker. And I like your description, 6'4", 243, four-time All-Pro, even had the perfect base mask. Bill Berge looked like a middle linebacker. And you said if Nakobe Dean is anywhere close to good as a career as Berge did, we should all be happy. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Game has changed, though. Nakobe ain't Bill Berge. He ain't 6'3", 243.
No,
he ain't
sir.
coming downhill. Are we putting too much on the shoulders of a guy who played 34 snaps last season, is undersized? Then again, maybe I should learn from Devontae Smith and Hassan Reddick because they're undersized and they did just fine. Where are you on Nakobe Dean? Are you no doubt about it, or let's wait and see?
I have doubts. I think I love his mentality. He's smart. He's got good instincts. Obviously, fantastic production in Georgia. But the fact that he's a little undersized and he's not a great athlete, that gives him two things to overcome. So there's a little bit of doubt. There's a little bit of hesitation with him. But linebacker is a position where instincts are critical. He's got the instincts. So I think that gives him every chance to succeed. And he seems like a very driven dude, And again, that's the linebacker is a position where that kind of stuff matters. And so I think he's going to pan out. How good he's going to be. Is he going to become a star linebacker? I don't know about that. I don't think this guy's going to be Fred Warner, right? But he doesn't have to be. If he can just be a solid middle linebacker for the Eagles for the next 5, 6, 7 years, that's fine. That's what they need. They don't need star linebackers. It'd be great if he did become one. What they need are, pass rushers, run stuffers. The linebackers make tackles, make the occasional play, and that's fine in this defense. So I think he's going to be good, but it's fair to question him. He's not a slam dunk, like can't miss type guy.
I don't think he needs to be the next Fred Warner. He needs to be the next TJ Edwards. And although they're different type of players, I think Nakobe's got a chance to be a better playmaker at linebacker than TJ Edwards. TJ may be the better force, stop the guy, dead tackle. He's 2 yards off the line of scrimmage. He's down at 2 yards off the line of scrimmage. I think he'll be – I don't know that Nakobe will be able to do that as well as Edwards, but I think he's got a chance to be every bit as good an overall linebacker as Edwards this upcoming season. Tommy, we always appreciate it when you jump on board with us. You got any vacation plans between now and 12 days from now when the Eagles get camp open?
You got to hurry up.
Some fishing in or something between now and then.
Just sitting around listening to you guys. I mean, that's a vacation, right?
We appreciate it.
You need to upgrade your life there, big guy. Tommy, good stuff. Always a pleasure, bud. We'll call you in a couple of weeks when camp gets opened up. Thanks, bud.
Sounds awesome. You guys take care.
Thanks, Tom.
Tommy Lawlor. Check out his website, Eagles. That's IGGLES Blitz.com. Yeah, I saw that picture of Berge. I did the Eagles pregame show on their radio network for 2 years with Berge, right?
Yeah.
I did that show in fear basically every single week because I thought Berge was going to get a little overly excited, and then I was just going to catch an elbow in the face because I had to sit next to him every single week. I thought I was going down hard. Good dude, and just a maniac who was very good for the Philadelphia Eagles. Nakobe Dean standing next to Bill Berge, you think they play the same position?
Different, well, now you could say that about Seth, right? Everybody's intimidated by Seth on the pre and post game show. Nicest guy in the world, though. But he's a big dude. Seth's a big dude.
Yeah,
linebackers have changed, but and that's why I bring up. I try to stay ahead. I think for my age, I'm pretty forward thinking when it comes to the evolution of the NFL. Devontae Smith has proven a lot of things to me. Hassan Reddick has proven a lot of things to me. And the game has changed drastically, and it's not important to have a Bill Berge anymore. In fact, it might be a detriment, as crazy as that is to say. And that's not a criticism of Bill Berge. It's just an indication of how the game has changed. We talked about 7-on-7, Jody, last week when I was talking about the high school kid. It's what it's about. It's about movement. It's about athleticism. And, probably what Tommy brought up, Nakobe's not the greatest athlete either. That's probably a bigger concern for me now than the size aspect of it.
I'm buying into the kid because he's just a flat out player. Because he runs 1/10 of a second slower in a 40-yard dash. Do I think that's going to make him a lesser player? No. Do I think because he's 10 pounds lighter than what linebackers are who were Pro Bowl players last year? No. I think he's going to be able to play because he can play. That's my read on that. And I think linebacker size just ain't what it used to be. Now, there is one position where I think size still matters. And if anything, it's actually advanced rather than most of the NFL is smaller than it used to be because it's become a more athletic game and a less physical game. How is it less physical? Well, that's the way they write the rules. That sometimes physicality can end up you got to pay a price for it rather than benefit from it. Oh, in the trenches, you still got to be big. And I do want to come back to talk about offensive line masterminds, which took place this weekend down in Frisco, Texas, led by homegrown star Lane Johnson. Been a big part of that. And what it actually means in the NFL, that the players now have to coach themselves up as much as the teams have to coach the players up because of collective bargaining agreements and the like. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back. He's McMullen, I'm McDonald, Mac on Birds 365.